You're listening to the Cricket Podcast.
Hello everyone and welcome to the Cricket Podcast, where we are going to be previewing the India v New Zealand Test Series. We're going to be talking about the T20s between the same nations. We might have a little bit of time for Bangladesh v Pakistan and the crazy final over we saw today. And later in the show, if you're listening on the audio, we speak with Melinda Farrell for about 40 minutes on the Tim Payne sexting scandal extravaganza, the Ashes squads, and from a more positive note, if you're Australian, we talk a little bit about the T20 World Cup as well. I am Jack Hope. I am joined on this part of the show and later as well by Roscoe Legg. How you doing, Ross?
Marvellous, thank you. I thought the interview with Melinda was brilliant, actually. I thought it was a good insight. I mean, normally we get accused of being very English-centric, don't we? So it was good to have an Aussie on.
Oh, I don't know if we do. Like our fans, the Cricket Podcast stands, they stand up for us, and they know that we're actually pretty unbiased, pretty critical of everyone. And we're joined by a man who has just spent 2 nights in Blackpool. Which, if you don't know, is about the worst place on the planet. Sorry if you're from Blackpool, and that hurts to hear. But we went there last year, or in 2019, we went there to watch the football. Me, Ross, Max, and a few other guys. As a bit of a joke. It was one of the more challenging 24 hours I spent in my life. Max, who was on that trip and knew all about it, went back for 48 hours. £1 burgers. And everything. Do you want to tell us about the trip, or just say hello?
You probably. I'll probably skip the trip bit and just say hello, and also defend myself by saying I wasn't there by choice. I was there on a stag do. I wasn't arranging the stag do. So what are you gonna do? That is how loyal I am to my friends. I will go back to Blackpool for twice as long as I spent in Blackpool the first time to celebrate their impending marital.
I think we're going to need to talk about Blackpool really quickly here.
All right.
When we went to Blackpool, we stayed at B&B, and the dog at the B&B was called Rim. R-I-M, Rim. Unusual name for a dog. In the morning, they served us breakfast with, I would say, 5 to 10 millimeters of water sloshing around on top of the beans and hash browns and bacon and sausages. And I'm not, it wasn't one person's meal that had been fucked up. It was every single person. There was 6 breakfasts, and all of them were mildly aquatic. Every bar you go into has got an entertainer, and Blackpool. Well, there are 100,000 people that live in Blackpool. What volume of decent entertainers can possibly be sustained by 100,000 people? Now imagine the deterioration in the bottom half of bars in terms of quality of entertainment. Ross, what did you think of Blackpool?
I thought everyone we saw, I think even like small children, had a cigarette in their mouth. That was rare to see. And it was kind of like, the Blackpool Tourism Board is not listening to this podcast right now, and nor should they. But the amount of the serious lack of investment in anything was really quite staggering.
Northern Powerhouse, leveling up.
My overriding experience of Blackpool the first time we went was that anytime we went into a pub or bar and asked someone where was good to go out or where was good for food or something, their instant response was, "Why are you here? Why are you in Blackpool? What are you doing?"
We did go to that good pizza place. There was a good pizza
place. We had a good pizza place.
Another man said to me while we were in Blackpool this weekend, "Why are you here?" So nice to know that the theme continues.
Yeah. Look, I feel like we've got the show off on a negative footing. Also, we're talking about India here, and there's going to be loads of people just wondering what on earth Blackpool is.
If you're from India, let us know what the Indian equivalent of Blackpool is.
Right, look, let's really quickly go through the messages and talk about the cricket. Ross.
We are sponsored by Woodstock Cricket. If you want some new cricket gear, go to their website and use code TCP25 for 25% off. You should follow us at the Cricket Pod on Twitter and Instagram. And then if you are watching us on YouTube, hit like to this video and then subscribe to our channel. We're on the road to 10K. We're so close to 9K. So just imagine if you were the person to get us there. Brilliant.
Yeah. That's good. And patreon.com/the cricket pod. Right, the 3 T20. Let's do it in chronological order. We'll do the India bit first. India, they took on New Zealand in 3 really important T20s that the eyes of the world were watching this. There's been no other important T20 cricket played recently, so it was absolutely I was glued to the screen to get my fix of the shorter format. Ross, what happened?
India won 3-0 against the runners-up. In the battle of the B teams, it was really. There was 3 tosses, and every single toss winner was Rohit Sharma, and they won every time. So again, the toss deciding T20 cricket.
Imagine how India could have done if they had Rohit Sharma installed as captain earlier, winning every toss.
Yeah, Kohli is
a
bad tosser, isn't he? So Rohit, good tosser. So
yeah. Have you got any more deep insight, or is that the extent?
Oh yeah, I've got a couple of questions. I mean,
all right, let's go.
First two games, it was 2 easy chases, really. I mean, New Zealand, after finishing runners up and then playing 3 days later, you can imagine the self motivation to get up for that was quite difficult. The scheduling of that is just absolutely mad. But within the pandemic and people trying to recoup money, etc., you can kind of understand it. And they were pretty much sell-out crowds as well, which was good to see. Then in the final game, once the pressure was all off, they decided to bat first after winning the toss, and actually it proved perfect, really, because they also easily dismantled New Zealand in that game too. I've got a couple of questions around some of the roles of the players, and we know this is a bit of a B-side, but the future of Venkatesh Iyer. So we're fans of him, aren't we, on the show? KKR opener, bowls medium paces. And at 26, I think there's plenty left in the tank. Do you think, as suggested by one of our Twitter followers, Richard Nrar, that he's being groomed for the Hardik Pandya replacement role?
Well, firstly, Ross, I think you need to be very careful about using a word like groomed in a sentence with Hardik Pandya at the moment. But we shall leave that to one side. I think it's interesting, from an India point of view and looking at their T20 player pool. Now, they are blessed with talent in the spin department, blessed with talent in the let's say anchor batting department. They've got a few hitters, but what they don't really have is a seam bowler who can bat in the top 6 and balance the side out. Now, Venki Iyer, I guess, is a player that could step into that role. Interestingly, I think the problem they might have with this, and I have not seen enough of Venki Iyer to know this either way, is that when he has been successful in the IPL, it has been at the top of the order, batting for quite a long time, often with pace on the ball. I don't think we've seen loads of him against quality spin, for example. For this India team, you would think that those positions are kind of nailed down. There's a few candidates above him for the opener, the second, the opener positions, the number 3, the number 4. He's sort of going to have to bat 5, maybe 6, possibly even 7. And I'd be interested. I don't know. What do you think? Do you think he has the game for that? I don't know, to be honest, from this series, whether we've got any answers.
Max, you mean KKR? I mean, they're not the worst team in the world, are they? They've been finalists this year. I think it was a big reason for that.
Yeah, I think he. I think, as Jack says, he's not going to get in the team in the top 4 of that Indian side. It's just not going to happen. So if he is going to get in the team, probably is the Pandya role. It's just a question of whether he can do it or not. I think he's shown flashes that he potentially can. He's got the right mindset. The way he plays at the top of the order, he goes after it. He doesn't, nerdle it around and for a bit and then attack. He'll go straight for it. And from the little bit I've seen of him, from what I can tell, he does actually quite like to attack the spinners as soon as when the matchup was right and the left armers came on in the IPL. He was straight down on one knee, looking for whichever was the shorter boundary. So there's signs there, but it's a different game, isn't it? Opening to batting 6 or 7, because you have to clear the fielder every time.
Been quite the rise, hasn't it? And it shows, if you're one of these players with a kind of unique skill set, or a skill that not many people have in your nation, it shows how you can go from like zero to hero. To use the proverb, the cliche sporting proverb, very, very quickly. It's like, if you're English and you bowl leg spin, you're probably going to have, you're probably going to play
2 tests.
Yeah, Jack, you're on the development path, aren't
you? If you're Indian and you can bowl a little bit of seam up and hit the ball about, then you've got a good chance of playing for your nation. Probably the same you'd say for the Aussies. I don't know if we'd have seen as much of Mitch Marsh if he were English, because he'd be behind players in the queue, or in an area where England traditionally have got a little bit more strength. If you want to take that example,
and equally for England, if you find someone who can bowl 90 miles an hour, they'll probably get a go as well.
Yeah, what I thought was interesting from this series was actually to some extent how little India experimented. What do we see? Rohit and KL Rahul opening the batting every single test.
Kishan played in the final.
Oh, did Kishan get a game? Okay.
Yeah. But it was a bit. Yeah, I agree with you there, Jack. I mean, there was out of the squad, Gaikwad and Avesh Khan didn't even get a bit of a run out. They could have easily rested someone like the known quantity that is Bhuvi, right? Like, we know what you're going to get with him. He's always going to bowl the same way. He doesn't need kind of that continued, you have to do all of this. So I was a little bit surprised to not see him play.
And India, they really need to know what the backup to Bhuvi's like. They've probably got a decent idea because of the IPL or whatever, but they could probably do with giving another seamer or two a bit more exposure in T20 cricket. So I think they fell down there, not hugely at the T20 World Cup, but I'm not convinced by Mohammad Shami, for example, as the alternative, or Shardul Thakur. I don't know about the Lord.
I agree. There's another question around Shreyas Iyer in this side. So we've talked about Venki. Let's talk about Shreyas.
Yeah.
I'm not sure he should be anywhere near this T20 side. I'm not sure if you two have a different view here, but if he is playing, he definitely should be batting at 5. And then why you don't need another anchor in this side? You've already got all of the anchors that you possibly could need. I just didn't understand why he was in there.
No, well, there's more interesting options, aren't there?
It's not been a great week for him. Apparently, he's going to be released by Delhi.
Oh, really?
Well, that's the rumor. I think Ashwin said it.
Oh, right. Well, that might mean that he goes and takes up the captaincy elsewhere, though, because he is an up and coming captain, right?
I think that's you've hit on the theme about why he's in the India squad. I think they want to give him as much exposure to international cricket as possible, because he's one of the succession plan, isn't he?
He's in the test squad, so it's not all bad news.
No.
Look, I am yet to be absolutely convinced that Shreyas Iyer is the second coming in any format. He gets talked about a lot as a potential successor, if you like, to Kohli. Someone to come in, be the kind of high run scorer, score quite quickly, take the game away from teams, and also has leadership credentials, I think, from the IPL, and I think at state level as well. But one in T20 cricket, I just don't think the current iteration of Shreyas Iyer is anywhere near India's best 11. In ODI cricket, probably is, to be fair enough. To be fair, you'd probably want to see him play a little bit more there. And then in first class cricket, he's got very good average, but he dominates. He's an Ollie Pope, if that makes sense. That makes sense to some of our listeners. He's somebody who stacks on runs at home, but doesn't really travel very well. And in Test cricket, you do have to travel quite a lot, and you have to go to some quite extreme conditions. So I think there's a reason we haven't seen him. I don't think we've seen him in Test cricket, have we?
Not yet.
I think there's a reason for that. And I'm not sure what the shortest form of white ball cricket is his game, which actually leaves a slightly more limited player than we would, than people would have us believe.
Yeah. Finally, point on India, because I know we're trying to keep this relatively short, is Akshar Patel. Batting at 7 makes no sense for batting Akshar Patel at 7. Even having Harshal Patel and Deepak Chahar in this side, bat them above him. He was a complete passenger. Like, it's okay to bat Akshar Patel at 9. Just because he's got a potentially nice cover drive doesn't mean you should be batting.
I quite like Akshar. I think Akshar's a decent.
You think he should be
hitter.
a power bottom? You think he should be I
don't know. I mean, I think we've seen him do okay for the Capitals, the Capitales in the IPL, haven't we?
I'm not convinced.
You're not convinced. I'm well. Look, I will gladly ride to his defence on this one. I believe in Akshar Patel as a lower order power hitter. Now, I think we've seen him sort of used in some odd positions in the IPL, but I think you could do a lot worse than him down the order. So disagree.
Oh, contentiousness on the podcast. Oh my goodness. I'm backing the people in the comments to back me saying that Harshal should be above where Akshar is batting. Let's move on to New Zealand. They, as I said at the start, they played 3 days after that horrible loss to Australia. And some of these guys would have seen this as an opportunity to get an IPL contract, as we know that the draft is just around the corner. Recency bias comes into it. And if you've hit runs against India, you're in with a good shout. Step forward, Martin Guptill. 70 from 42 balls, 31 from 15 balls, and 51 from 36 balls. He's got an IPL contract coming, boys.
He didn't have a great record in the subcontinent until, well, he probably still doesn't have a great record, but it's certainly a series that the people may take note of. I think Martin Guptill from he's a bit old, isn't he? He's an old man.
But well,
he had a decent World Cup as well. It's possible. I think if anyone picks him up, it might be a new team. But
the new team wildcards are great because the people who you kind of be like, there's no way they're getting picked up. We're going to see an absolute rambunctious, weird selection of people.
There's still a whole lot of guys who don't get picked up that should be picked up though. So I still think Martin Guptill was probably a little down the list of people who perhaps should be opening the batting for IPL franchises, but that doesn't necessarily mean that we won't see him opening the batting for an IPL franchise in a few months.
Yeah, so if Dan Christian can go through the tournament with binary scores and still play every single game for RCB, that's what you want, right? Santner, Jack, continuing to prove you right around being a very handy T20 option, and no doubt we'll see him in some of the test matches. Do we want to talk about Pakistan versus Bangladesh first, or do you want to go into the India versus New Zealand test matches?
Yeah.
Cool. So there's a few bits here. So 1 and 2, we had the winners and the runners-up from the World Test Championship. It starts again. The merry-go-round starts again. But this time, Kohli, Rohit, Bumrah, Shami, Pant, and Lord Thakur have all been rested. But that means that Rahane leads the side. I mean, there's been calls for his position for the last 9 months or so. But he's going to be taking the captaincy. What do we think about that? Just carry on as is, boys.
It's a really weird one, isn't it? I am a little bit disappointed that what we're gonna get for this test series is going to fall some way short in terms of quality versus what it could have been. You know, the best test team in the world going away to the second best test team in the world. It's by current rankings, that's about what we're getting based on the World Test Championship final. That's what we're getting here. I think it's very difficult to make an argument that they aren't the best two, whichever way you want to put them around. It should be, a huge series. It should be, from a neutral perspective, we should be setting our alarm clocks for 5 a.m. to make sure that we get up and get our fill of what should be an excellent cricket, an excellent test series. And there are some problems with it, though, aren't there? I mean, fundamentally, 2 tests is quite a small number of tests.
Not enough.
Yeah. And secondly, the as you sort of said there, Ross, the teams aren't the best teams. We're seeing players rested. We're seeing a fair amount of rotation. We're not going to see Colin de Grant on. That's obviously really
devastating.
It's obviously really
we didn't even mention that the New Zealand players who aren't playing, right? We mentioned the Indian players there, but there's no Trent Bolt, no de Grant on, as you say. Devon Conway broke his hand punching his cricket bat, so he's gone.
Now you can do less about. I think the Grondholm's got some sort of an injury as well, hasn't he? Or I'm
bubble
not
fatigue,
sure.
mate. Bubble fatigue.
Yeah. There we go. And then we got Conway. Obviously, can't really do too much about that. But I think there's a deeper question here, and we're not going to answer it now on this question on this podcast. But we probably people who run cricket probably do need to think a little bit about whether we want loads of cricket or whether we want really high quality cricket, or whether there's some kind of compromise in the middle there. India have just been playing an insane number of cricket matches this year, back to back, with an IPL and two halves of an IPL thrown in to fill the space. Now that's it's obviously not sustainable in terms of being able to put your best 11 out. And I think for series like this, it's a real shame that we're not going to see the best 22 players from the best two teams in the world playing off against each other, and it really does detract from that.
It would be too much cricket in a world where you can go home and see your family as well, let alone one where you're stuck in a hotel for the entire fucking thing.
Yeah, I mean, I know that people will say COVID, boards need to make their money back. It's people have been hit in the pocket and so on, but I is what they're doing here smart? Is it good? Is it good for the game to play? They're like A-star teams, aren't they? They're not A teams, but they're not.
Yeah, they're somewhere between your first choice and your sort of development squad, isn't it? Or whatever.
I know you get rotation. You need to see new players, and there's an opportunity here, isn't there, for some of the younger Indian batters to stake a claim and maybe knock someone like Rahane out of the side, and that does create interesting narratives. And there are reasons to watch this game, but I also do think for first v second in the world, it's a shame that it's this series that this rotation is going to happen.
Yeah, that's it, isn't it? I mean, we have been asking reasonably recently for to see a few new faces in the India lineup. Once getting to dead rubbers and things, and the future of Pujara and Rahane being brought sort of questioned from some of their recent performances. But the top v second in the world, when you are, it's half a side, isn't it? That's out basically, and from this India point of view, it's a little too much.
Having said that, I still think India will smash them. India, New Zealand spinners. I like Mitchell Santner, but he's going to have to bowl about 8,000 overs. Is he up to that? Is he going to bowl 8,000 threatening overs, or are they just going to be overs that go for 3 and over, and we see India pile on the runs? And
and you compare that to who India have, right? They've got Ashwin, who's going to, every single ball he could take a wicket with. Jadoo as well in that side. I mean, Akshar Patel could actually play in this. I mean, he's going to be a specialist home spinner, isn't he? So we can see. And that lineup for India is quite... Even the batting lineup, KL Rahul, will Agarwal come into the top order, or will they continue with Shubman Gill?
I thought Gill was going to be the one that they'd go with. He was on my fake 11.
Yeah, I mean, I think he only didn't make it to England because he was injured, wasn't he? So I assume he's still...
Gill, Rahul, Pujara. Maybe we'll see Shreyas Iyer, Rahane. And then Ridham Saha.
I really want to see Agarwal play. Agarwal gets badly treated every single time by this India side. He is some player. I think his average in India is unbelievable.
He's no King legend. As we see. Anything else on this series? Do we want to make a prediction or say it or do something like that?
2-0 India.
I'm going to go 1-1. I reckon New Zealand might actually do all right.
No. India have lost their one test at home this decade, thanks to Joe Root, and then after that they've cancelled fair cricket. So it's going to be 2-0 India.
I've got to go with
in these conditions. They're just miles better.
Yeah, it's going to be one hell of a challenge, isn't it? But got to be positive in this kind of thing. Speaking of terrible pitches, should we talk about Bangladesh
very quickly?
So they have just been pummeled 3-0 by Pakistan. We all know that Bangladesh's approach to T20 cricket is suboptimal, but they really can't seem to get it right at home, can they? I mean, the pitches at all levels are supposedly absolutely terrible, and that starts from the top doesn't it? Like, I mean, the scoring rates have been super low, both in the games, but also by their batsmen. And there doesn't seem to be a lack of a plan B for Bangladesh whatsoever.
Well, there's
there's no plan A.
Of a lack of a plan A. Yeah. You have to have a plan A to have a plan B. Well, maybe this is plan B, and they've got to do plan A. I don't know. I mean, I can't speak, and I think we've talked about this a little bit on the podcast. I can't speak with any authority on the condition of Bangladeshi pitches below international standard, but they are appallingly bad pitches for international standard.
It would be highly unlikely. Sure. It would be highly unlikely for them to be better.
Well, look,
below international standard.
We know, that they're not going to be rock hard, bouncy pitches like you get in South Africa with the ball flying miles and stuff like that. Cricket, T20 cricket in Bangladesh is probably going to be 145 a side, lots of spin, ball keeps a bit low. That's the game. Yeah. But they're not even really that, are they? They're like
sand
100 to 120 a side. Batters who have spent their entire life learning how to play cricket, looking like they've got absolutely no clue because the conditions are so alien. And they'll beat
cricket on Mars.
They will beat the SENA countries or the Western countries, depending on how you want to phrase that. They'll beat them all the time at home because, when was the last time you played in a sandpit, Ross?
When it was about 3.
Yeah.
And I didn't have a cricket ball. I didn't have a bat.
And it might be enough to do what they've managed to achieve for the next World Cup and get themselves into the main draw. So they don't even have to qualify. They just go straight into the Super 12s by doing this at home. But it's not great cricket, is it? And they're not going to get any better. And they're going to be quite bad away from home.
It doesn't show any desire to improve and move. And
it's also not impossible to improve pitches, or change pitches. We see that happen in other nations. It is possible to employ a groundsman to make the pitch easier to bat on, particularly at the top level of the game. I understand club cricket in Bangladesh might not have the resources of club cricket in Australia and England, but in your international stadiums and your international facilities for your players to practice in, surely it's possible.
Yeah, it must be.
And if it's not, then maybe the ICC should try and help make it possible, because it would be better for international cricket if,
They're not going to do anything, is it? Are they?
Of course they're not, but they should.
Okay, the money's going here. The money's going here. Oh, no, sorry. It's gone over to the BCCI or the ECB. Pakistan have won 3-0, though. They showed that they do have a little bit of depth in this side. It does raise questions on whether they should have continued with Hassan Ali all the way through the World Cup when his form was so dire. However, again, what do they really learn out of this? A couple of their players performed well. Mohammed Wasim performed with the ball. But their only bit of drama to a 3-game series was the very last over of today's game. And did you guys see that?
Still last. Yeah, there's mayhem. Do you want to talk us through the over? Because it is, if you haven't seen this and what happened, it's it's one of the craziest ends to a cricket match I've seen recently.
So unfortunately, I think it was Tasmin, was it Taskin? Sorry, the opening bowler. He got hit early on, and then one of their other bowlers had to finish his over, and that meant they had 6 balls left. It had to come from a non bowler, or someone wasn't penciled in. And Mamadullah, the captain, decides it's time for me to shine, boys. He then proceeds to take 3 wickets in the final over. I think they need, is it 6 runs they need? Is it 7, something like that? Or 7 runs?
It was 8. So I've got 8 down.
Okay, well, you know better than me.
Well, yeah. So Bangladesh, they're defending 8 of the final over. Pakistan lost a few wickets. And it goes. How does it go? Let me get the ball by ball commentary up here, because it is worth going through. The over starts with a dot ball. Pretty good. Your part-time bowlers put one on the spot. Sarfraz Ahmed can't get it away. He gets hit. No run.
Fortunately, in Bangladesh, the spot is quite big.
Yes. Next ball, he picks up a wicket. Sarfraz goes to the slog sweep, and he is caught on the rope. Like, a lot of these catches are are kind of crazy batting. So Pakistan, they now need 8 to win with 7 wickets in hand. Still, still pretty good shape here. 8 or 4 balls for part-timer with 7 wickets in hand. Next ball is another wicket. Hyder Ali, the other guy who set 45 off 38, he is out. I think he's caught a long on. So Pakistan are doing a Pakistan, and it's like, oh my god, they're actually going to lose this. They need 8 from 3 balls now with 2 new batters at the crease. If the car comes in, hits a 6, belts a 6. It's now well back in the hands of Pakistan. The drama is over, and then he's out next ball, goes to do the same thing again, smashes the ball up in the air, and he's caught in the circle at short third. Which brings Mohammad Nawaz to the crease. And this is where it gets like sort of really weird, because Mahmudullah comes in and he tries to do like a Mark Watt and bowl from where the umpire is. I guess he heard our podcast when Mark Watt was talking about this, and saw the batter was looking down. So he bowls, and at the last second, the Pakistan batter's like, no, I'm not playing that. Pulls out, he's bowled. The umpires are like, that's not out. That's going to have to be re-bowled. Mahmudullah's like, no, mate, let's just say that was out. Yeah, make it out. Yeah, make it out. I don't think he did do him. I think he did something like quite outrageous. And the batter's probably well within his rights to be like, what are you doing bowling from 25 yards, mate? I'm on the batter's side here. Anyway, next ball, Mahmudullah comes in, and he does the old check for the mankad. So he runs in, and the non-striker is in his crease. So what do they need here? 1 to tie, 2 to win. Finally, he comes into bowl, and he's smacked over the covers for 4 runs, and Pakistan win the match by 5 wickets in the series, 3-0, as you said, Ross. But it was
carnage,
completely bonkers end to the game. Really good fun. Anything else on this?
No. I just crazy that they fit 3 games in the last few days, just straight after the World Cup. Yeah. Just like crazy.
Right. Let's wrap up the first bit of the show, or this show if you're watching on YouTube. We will play a jingle if you're on audio, and be back speaking to Melinda Farrell about all things Australia. Max, goodbye. You're leaving the show here.
Yep.
Any last words?
I'm off for a lie-in in the morning that this was recorded.
The big message though. The big Test cricket is back. Team Test cricket is back. We should get excited about that. No more T20s.
Warming up for the Ashes.
For the A-team Test cricket, yeah.
Cool. Right. Bye-bye.
You're listening to the Cricket Podcast.